Hello.
Hey, Wim, how are you doing?
I'm good. 1 second. Do you see me? Do you hear me?
Yep, both.
All right. Yeah, I had to go with my car. Took a bit longer.
No,
Just
no
to,
problem.
after 4 years, you have to do a checkup, and so.
Yeah.
So, 1 second. Okay. I was looking for the meetings. The meeting. Wait. Wrong window. All right. Let me share my screen. And there's the screen. You see my screen?
Yeah, it's loaded.
All right. So let's see, is Marcus not here yet? Yeah, I didn't prepare the session. Normally I do it on a Monday. Number 15. Yeah, so is there anything? Let me check Marcus whether he is there.
Tomorrow is the TOC meeting for the sandbox. CNCF
Yes.
sandbox, right?
Correct, yeah. I didn't hear anything anymore. I said there was a few questions with examples.
Yeah, on the GitHub page, right? This.
Yeah.
They were all answered, right? You answered some of those.
Yeah, I answered them, I think, yeah. So, yeah, I haven't seen anything else. Wait a minute, so where did I put the PR or the... No, I did not, right? Where is it? Is it this GitHub? Yeah, that's the one. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, I see that it's in the new state. I think it should be in the upcoming state.
Yes, tomorrow there's a review board, right? So I think it's tomorrow on the session, I think.
Yeah, I see. If you go to the
overall,
you go to the issue and look at the bottom where it says moved this from, it's been moved from upcoming to new. If you look at the second to last, if you click on this link, it shows that it's been moved out of upcoming, which means for the next sandbox review meeting, to new, which is yeah, I don't know why it's been moved out.
So it means it's not in the meeting for tomorrow.
It looks like it, if I read it like this correctly.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
But maybe it's still going to be tomorrow. I don't know. Let's see.
Not yet been moved to upcoming queue by TOC.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, new sandbox applications that have not yet been moved to the upcoming queue.
Yeah, but the milestone still says December 16th, so the milestone is still for tomorrow.
Yeah, but maybe someone has to move. I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
Someone has to take the action, right? Okay. I don't know. Gurley is not here, right? So he typically knows better what's going on there. Let me put this in the meeting minutes. Then we don't have to search for it anymore. Yeah. Sandbox. Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's maybe discuss a little bit on the content, right? Where we are. So it seems that we now have the order in which we want to go is first to move the syncing, meaning the syncing of the data server code, and that has a dependency on the integration tests. And that has and then we have the split. So that's kind of, they all go together. Maybe Marcus, on the sync itself, what is the latest?
The status. I fixed an issue this morning where I forgot to set the path that content should be deleted from the tree, from the running tree, right? If it's at conf get and data would be deleted, it wasn't deleted. So I fixed that, but I still run into failing deviation tests.
For non-revertive.
Yes. Unfortunately, I ran the tests locally, like one step after the other, and guess what? It all passed. So, yeah, I still need to figure out what's going on there, why it happens.
In the integration runs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the important part, because all of these things are dependent on each other. So yeah, so basically this is number one, right?
Oh.
And this is dependent on that. Then this, so this is actually merged, so that's okay, right? And then this is dependent on the integration test, basically.
And this 95, this is the one Marcus that you created, right? Or is this?
Which one?
I don't remember. This 95.
That's yours, I think. It was already merged, so that's done, basically.
Okay.
There's on top, there is multiple that I'm not listing here, but this is the high level plan here somehow, right? So the data server sync is GitHub SDC/data server, right? I'm not tracking, there is more than this this one. This is the one, right, Marcus? Reorg sync?
Yep.
That's the one that we need to merge first, basically, or get. The problem right now is we are not merging because of the fact that there is integration tests who fail, which used to work. But it's not consistent, right?
Yeah.
That's the issue that we try to resolve. And so, yeah, so then Hans did some improvement on the integration tests, right? To make them modular, right? This is making them a module, more modularity, right? So that we don't have to run the full thing, but you can split it. And then this one, you cannot merge unless you have the integration tests that are related, and they are, the PR is done, right? But it's also depending on that. So that's kind of a little bit where we are. So the focus should be to get this one in ASAP, right? So basically get all of them in ASAP. Because then the question, then the next steps are, I mean, if you look, so if you look to the data, if you look to the other activities, right? So maybe we should discuss them. So the next activities, I think what, so this one we want to fix as soon as possible. So this is basically, so right now, I think, Alex, you mentioned that, and I think you were also a bit of a fan of doing that. But I think we found out the real reason why we have to do it is that because the config server doesn't have the full of the actual visibility of the running config, right? It can make decisions that are not, so your visibility is wrong. So as a result, the decisions that are made might not be the correct ones. By moving the non-revertive capabilities, make them reside in the data server, fixes it, right? So that's, and the reason why we wanted to do this one ASAP is because there are some integration tests that fail and this is mainly related to non-revertiveness. So if we fix this, then we should have always a clean run on the integration tests. That's why we feel that we have to do this ASAP, right? So what this means is actually we move, so in the configs, when we send them to the data server, we indicate the revertiveness or non-revertiveness. And by doing so, the data server can make the decision on what to do. The reporting and stuff like that doesn't change, right? So that still remains the same, but it moves. So in other words, the logic that is in the config server right now to basically indicate the revertive. So today the config server sends both the config snippets as well as the revertive configs that are for so in the non-revertive case, it also sends the deviations down, and that would no longer be done. So it would only send the config snippets down, and it leaves the whole revertive and non-revertiveness handling into the data server.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's kind of what this is. And so the reason we wanted to do that is because right now in the non-revertive integration runs, we see some intermittent failure because of that. Because the config server is blind for in the duration, so it's when it doesn't have the full running config, it's basically blind. And so it can basically send things down that should be reverted that are non-revertive and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay.
And then the next thing we want to cover, because this one is done, right? So this should be okay. This is done. So the thing that we should probably tackle it, but it's mainly a config server thing only, is the data server restart, right? So that's mainly a config server thing. So this is data server plus config server. This is config server mainly is the data server restart. We should tackle, right? I think the other one that I want to tackle as ASAP in the config, so that is config server, that is the lineup with the dependabot, right? And there is the logging, right? That we have to do. Dependabot. And then the next thing, what is the next thing that we should cover is sensitive data.
Sensitive data is good for us. Yeah.
And that's between config server and data server. So my goal is, the problem is I don't want to, the issue is that with these, they are, I did a lot of rework with this guy. So I can start working on it, but the problem is that they are dependent on, there's quite some changes here into the code. So I want to do it based on this code. And I don't want to overload this PR either, if I'm honest, because it's already big. And then, yeah, what else do we need to do, Marcus? Is there anything in data server, like memory optimization?
There is one thing that I've that I've thought of today is, like, right now I took the easy approach for the syncing, right? Where I'm just telling the running tree that it's now getting a full get config or whatever for a certain path, and that it should simply delete it, right? But with Alex, we've already discussed that we could flag those entries as possibly deleted, then do the import, and then in a final stage figure out like which ones are really deleted because they're not part of the new get, basically. And with that, we can then introduce deviations as an event-driven interface towards config server.
Deviation as an event-driven interface.
Yeah, right now it's an event that a specific event that calculates deviations for the whole.
Yeah, every 30
running versus the intents.
Yes.
If we first not straight away delete the whole sync path from, like, for instance, for SROS, what we do right now is we have a sync for /config. So we would go and the first thing is delete the whole stuff that sits under /config and then repopulate it, right? Then we do not know what has changed, right? Like what is not there anymore and so on, right? If we keep that stuff and flag it, I mean, that's how we do it when we apply an intent, right? We take the intent, we mark the whole, like all of the entries from this intent name as deleted, and then we apply the given intent, and then we can figure out like what is really deleted, because if it still remains in the intent, then we delete the deleted flag, like remove that flag, right? And then we know what is new, what is deleted, and so on. And with that like mechanism, we can also use for deviations.
Yes, the only thing I think in that case, don't you have to remember the deviation that you were sent before?
I would know the deviation that I've sent before because I have the running tree in there, and based on running, I can figure that stuff out, right?
Yeah, because today it's a stateless type of. At the moment, the deviation reported is stateless in the data server. If you see what I mean.
No, I don't see it, because I mean we have to load we have to load running, we have to load all the intents, and then we do the calculation, right? And it's the same basically when we do
no, but what I'm trying to get to is stateless to the sense of you don't remember the previous deviations that you sent.
That Alex, help me here, but I think I do not have to specifically remember that because that's implicit in the data. Like,
right, but so in the new case, if you only send, you do the calculation from the diff, is there not a case that it might be that you sent someone before that is no longer there? So how would you clean that up?
I have the old running sitting in there. I'm telling that whole running under the path that the sync is for, I'm marking it as deleted. Just a flag right now. I'm setting that for everything under that branch, right? And then I'm doing the import of the new running. If that value still exists, I'm trying to insert it, and I see, okay, there's a running value already that is marked for deletion right now. So let's remove this deletion marker and set it as not as an update, not as new. It's just deleted, and it sits there, and it's like, yeah, this was always there. It's fine, right? And then we have, which cases do we have? Brownfield config.
So
We will see.
let me ask a different question, Marcus, because will you send in that reporting all the deviations that are active at a given point in time, at that time?
I could.
Because the problem where I'm basically triggered upon is you say it's event driven, right? So typically with an event driven system, you need to remember the state of before to be able to clean up things that are no longer needed.
I have the state, the before state implicitly, because I have the old running and also the intents loaded, because I anyways need
but
that
it means
to
that the deviation interface has to change, right?
That would be the thing, yeah.
Because right now the way it is designed, it's basically stateless, right? In the sense that everything
on your side, on
yeah, correct, yeah. But at the end of the day, we need to look at it as a complete system, right?
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying on my side it's not, and it will not, and then it would be, yes. Then you would need to take these reported deviations and keep that list at hand. But you anyways need to keep it, because if someone tells you give me the deviations at any point in time, you've gotten that last report, and you keep that in memory, right?
No, I don't. Deviations is completely storage.
Okay, so you store it, but anyways, you have a copy of it.
I don't. The server doesn't retain a copy. I mean, the copy is.
Then?
I mean, it's basically stored on disk, right?
So you have a copy.
Yeah, not in. What I'm trying to say is not in memory. It's just stored in disk.
I don't care where it's stored, right? I mean, it only needs to be updated, and then it's fine, right? But
yeah, so the way it works right now is you remember that the changes that we did in order to figure out whether a deviation is to be deleted, we did some special handling in that, right, in the past, you remember?
Mm-hmm.
So we probably have to change that, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
We can discuss it, but from my perspective, it's a cleaner, less processing effort based approach,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
And not like this 30-second interval and whatever, and then we have the additional burden of first we need to wait for the sync interval, then the deviation calculation needs to happen, and then the deviation timer needs to run, and then we report it. Then we're just reliant on the syncing.
No, I mean, if we can improve, we improve, right? I don't have a problem with it. But we have to look at the whole thing, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I mean, that's it. Right now, it kind of works, right? So that's not something we really need to push for very hard right now. But that's, I think, a good and nice improvement that we should aim for.
Mm-hmm.
My view on it is that we already have to process entries during the sync steps, right? So we already have to process whether something's changing, whether we need to send a new push or what the next stage is. And that's more or less similar to what we're doing at deviations, right? We're determining if there's a drift. And that's what we're also doing before we're just determining whether we need to push something. So merging these two steps together means that we reduce the overhead. As Marcus said, we don't have now two different sync intervals or times that are working on this effectively the same sort of work. So
yeah,
I think that this is going to be something that will also help with scaling to larger deployments as well, because we're no longer having to maintain two separate processes doing similar tasks. It's just streamlining it into one. So
I understand the reasoning, but yeah. So, and how would that look like with streaming? It would be the same.
You mean streaming configs from the device?
Yes, on change.
That would be the same, yeah. It's just that the packages of data that would flow into that sync process are just smaller, right?
Yes, but for example, my view on sync is that you can just sync one specific element, right? So you just do on change, which means I think you also have to have a delete of a deviation. Not?
Yeah, I would of course need to tell you which additional deviations show up and which ones did vanish. That's for sure, yeah.
Yeah, so the whole state needs to be, yeah. So yeah, in other words, you will have to explicitly say to delete or to add or to.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll tell you this one.
That's what I'm trying to say.
This value is deviated now. This value is deviated now. This value is deviated now. And at some point, I would say this value went back to its initial state, and then you have to simply delete it from the list of deviations. And then we're good.
And how do you know that a whole deviation can be deleted?
if the value matches again, right? The desired and actual value matches, then the deviation.
Yeah, but it's not just a deviation is per path, right? So here so there is some additional encapsulation. So you, on one hand, you have the deviation, but they are also per intent, if you will, right? So today they are mapped on a per intent basis.
Yeah, but I have that information. I have that information anyways, right? Because the tree anyways consists, if I do the deviation calculation today, what I do is I load running and I load all the intents that I have for that specific target, right? And then I fill that into the tree, and then on a per path basis, like per leaf list, per field, whatever, I'm taking a look at what is running. Does running exist? If running doesn't exist, it's not applied. if running exists and there is a highest priority value, then I check the values of running versus this highest priority thing, and then I can tell you what the if it's what's the status then? Not unhandled. It's deviated. Whatever.
Yeah,
And for all the other intents that have that value specified, I'm saying not applied.
yeah, but in order to do what I'm actually referring to, you need to have the previous running, the current running, and the deviation in order to do the diff, right?
The deviation is implicit because I'm calculating that out of the tree anyways, and
Yeah,
as I
so-
said, we have the old running. I mean, running is there, right? We're doing the syncing, and then we have new data. And since I went through and set the whole running intent for that specific path that this sync is for, to delete it up front, adding the deleted marker, and then doing the insertion where I delete the deleted marker or add the new marker, I can explicitly tell you what happened there.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that you somehow need to construct, because you somehow need, I'm not saying full running old, right? But the previous running plus the new running plus the intent somehow, right?
I do have that, yeah.
Yeah, so in order to do the job, you need to have the old running somehow. I'm not saying you have to load it into the tree, because that's the only way you can do the delta, right?
I need to load running anyways in the sync process, and then I need to alter it, right? It's not two separate instances of running. It's basically an instance that evolves. And since we have these markers that tell us it is new, it is updated, or it's deleted, we basically have a view on how it evolved from one step to the next, right?
Yeah.
Which is implicit old and new, if you will.
Yeah, but that means that the interface of the deviation reporting has to do an apply and a delete instead of today. It's always so it has to change with that semantic in mind. Whereas today, we kind of forget old and we say everything that is reported is new and all the rest should be deleted. That's how it works today, implicitly.
Yeah. It's a whole. Today you get a snapshot, and you on config server side, on the reporting side, you basically do a replace with that new snapshot. Yes. And then in the other semantics, it would be a more event driven, more this value is now a deviation for this intent and for that intent, and then this deviation is cleared. Basically, it's now
so you need to basically do add and delete, or let's say apply and delete, or something like that, or observe and delete for every. Yeah, you need to basically indicate.
And you just have to, and you just also only have to have a store the information that you get, and then if there's a delete, you drop that element, and then that would be fine.
And then, so what do you do if there is no watch at that time?
Then I don't care.
Yeah, but then we lose information, right?
No, because I can I can then so the minute you come in with a new watch deviation, also subscribe to deviation events, I would have to calculate it for the whole tree and send it once to you. And then from that point in time, you would get the additional updates.
Yeah, you need to resync. There needs to be a resync mechanism.
Yeah.
Like we have today, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the general idea there.
Yeah, so the resync is kind of what we have right now, because we kind of have to remove all the state that was there and start from scratch, basically, right? And then do the event-driven interfacing. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can look at it. Now, I think we have to probably see, now there is two things here. One is, okay, you're busy on the interface, which means that the code is fresh to you or to the people, which is also an important consideration, versus the priority that we need to handle things, right? So there is always this trade-off, right? In terms of tackling it, is what I'm trying to say. Because in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not the biggest priority, but because we are working on the code, it might be convenient to do it first, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's also it. I think to some extent also gets feeds into the memory optimization, because if we do not create that many additional entries and then throw the old ones away, but rather like keep them and so on, it might help with garbage collection and memory footprint.
Yeah.
Right, because today I'm in the SROS in the SROS sense, I'm creating an import of, like for Netcom, for instance, I'm creating an importer that gets the XML document that I fetched via Scraply, right? And then it's a matter of the importer to, along with the schema, figure out like what elements are there in the schema, are they in that XML document, and then import them into the tree.
Mm-hmm.
If we throw them away, if we throw the tree away, we would build all these typed values and the whole structure over and over and over again, right? Whilst using the importers, since we do not create these typed values and so on up front, and only ingest the XML document that we have sitting there anyways, and then check what's the value of it? Is it equal? Is it different, and so on? We don't. I think we do not create as many objects that will be garbage collected straight away.
Yeah, but don't we then deviate from the fact that data servers should be stateless? Because the goal has always been, and I think it is, we should continue or keep that philosophy, is to retain the data server as a stateless entity.
How is it not stateless?
I mean,
I'm
if you keep memory, it's not stateless.
Point.
If you keep memory, it's not stateless, in my view. I mean, you need memory when to do the computation, but when you're done, you should get rid of it. That's a stateless mechanism. And the reason to do so is that if the data server disappears, we should just spin it up somewhere else and the whole thing continues.
Is that not still what would happen, right? Because anyway, we need to, when data server starts and gets its target, it will start syncing from the device, build the tree, get the intents, put them together, and then it will be back at the same.
But the tree should be put in the cache, right? The result of the tree should be resulting in the cache. And when there is a new computation, it should refetch that and do the computation again.
Yeah, that's what we do. We have all the intent.
So in other words, so normally if there is no work, the memory should be close to 0. Other than having like a data server context, that's it.
Can you remind me how the cache is stored? Is it on the
On this?
PV, or is it ephemeral storage?
No, it's BudgetDB, right? So it's persistent. We have a PV.
You have PV for the cache.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, but then we're just swapping around memory operations for disk operations, right?
Yes, but disk is way cheaper than memory, right? And so when you respin it up, so that's why the memory is so that's why memory is very expensive. And so the reason we want to store at disk is because of that. And BudgetDB is very good to have the latency between disk and memory short, or it's optimized for that purpose. That's why we selected BudgetDB as a storage mechanism.
But if we were to go that way as well, I mean, or sorry, if taking this with BudgetDB, I'm not sure that we should have a PV there as well. I think that this causes, I mean, then you need to allocate storage and so on. If we're really talking about
the reason we do that, Alex, is, for example, we have configurations like NBN, right, which are massive. So you only have to calculate the diff basically from there, right? So you keep what was there, sync it, and then.
But we've also said that we anyways have to sync or have to load the whole tree over and over again, right? We have to. I mean, these days for each and every sync that we do, if it's a get sync, right, which with NBN is not possible. We know that, but to insert anything into the tree, it has to be loaded into memory, right? So every 30 seconds, we would be loading that stuff into memory. And then we would, like these days, have the other process, or the other Go routine that does deviation calculation, which would also build the tree once again and read all the data from disk, build the tree, do its calculation, and then throw it away again. So that's, I mean, yeah, to me, it's not that much. I mean, it's a couple of hundred megs, right? In a plain JSON file or whatever. In our environment, it's maybe a gig or two.
Yeah, but do that times 1,000, then you have a terabit of memory.
Yeah, but do that. I mean, do that in that frequency, like loading data from disk, building it up in memory, and then doing a bit of calculation and throwing it away to load it again in 25 seconds because you need 5 seconds to do your calculations and so on. Then what did you gain?
Yeah, I mean, you have to design for the trade-off. But what we do, what I know for a fact is that memory is very expensive and typically very much smaller in size than disk.
It's true, yeah.
Way smaller in size.
But then it should be, yeah, some kind of priority queue on what's kept in memory, because in the end, yeah, if we are talking about having massive configurations and many devices all all for one data server, right? We would anyway run into memory starvation at some point. So we need to somehow limit what is going to be in memory. Because okay, I don't know how big this MBM config is that you're discussing, but take this, right now we don't have any resource limits on the deployment, I believe.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that what I was getting to is we should design it with that in mind. You see?
But is that not what we'd have anyway? Because right now we are keeping it ephemeral, more or less. I don't see how we would not be doing this. We have, okay, this PV is going to stop us from having it completely ephemeral, right? Because we can't, if we delete data server, then this cache stays around. Or if we were to restart data server.
So the other reason why we have the cache, so we always, when we started the design, is we always had the ability that you somehow have two data servers to the same target, right? So you could kill one and the other one stays alive without having to resync and stuff like that. So if you look to NBN type of configurations, that's how they would deploy, right?
Does this cause a lot of complexity with coordination?
No, because the disk is your storage layer. So that's your single source of truth, basically.
Does the cache store everything? It's just storing intents. No? Is it storing also the running config and all of these, the entire tree?
So the cache should store so typically it should, okay, we decide what is in the cache, right, at the end of the day, but the minimum that it should be there is the running config.
The cache these days is storing running as well as each intent.
And intent, I think, yeah. So,
but it's basically not using running from the cache, because running is kept in memory because of set circumstances that it needs to load these for all sorts of operations. So I simply kept it in memory.
Yeah, correct. But so that's why I'm saying we are deviating from the goal that we always had. And if we do that, we cannot accommodate for some scenarios that we want to support, right?
Well,
because for me, the flexibility is more important than the speed. I mean, the fact that it takes 2 seconds more doesn't matter.
Is this not a conversation more about optimization in general then?
Yeah, but for example, if you look to and I think a lot of people that want high availability, they would deploy to data server stateless with a single with a cache that stores the data, right? And then what happens if a data server would die, or whether you would spin it up somewhere else because of let's say scale concerns? You can do that, right, without having to resync. Yeah?
My argument would, but where's the issue with resyncing?
You know the issue with NBN, right? So very large config has huge syncing challenges.
But we've seen it's only taking a minute.
That's long, right?
But at some point we'll need to do a syncing anyway, because we'll need to.
Yeah, I'm not denying that, but you don't have to do it just to do it, right?
But okay, you got a state where data server was unavailable for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then
yes, but so the way to overcome that, Alex, when we started the whole project, we always had the ability to have run 2, right? For that purpose. To retain the availability.
Yeah, but let's say that all available services of data server were unavailable for some time. Let's say someone scaled down.
Sure. I mean, yeah, we still have to support that. I'm not
on old data, and we still need to get an update to be able to know what the latest data is, and this is not something without coordination between all running instances. You won't be able to tell if the data there is stale or not, right? So at some point we need to, upon launching or upon target detection, right, or target discovery, we'll need to run a sync, and this will happen.
And I'm not saying that we do not have to have it, right? But the syncing is typically something you don't do for the sake of doing it, right? I look always at the beginning. If you look to the project, the way we set it up, data server was stateless.
But it's still stateless, right? Even if it's got stuff in
memory, it's not stateless.
I would disagree there, because in the end, stateless just means you can regenerate. You don't need to have some physical storage of data to be able to resume operations.
I look at what a stateless workload is in Kubernetes,
right? There's no session involved, because when it starts, you load the running config, you load the intents, and you can perform the same calculations to get to the same conclusion. This to me is stateless, right?
Yeah.
Not to the full sense. Stateless means you don't retain state, right?
Then we should cross out the PV.
Right? Then
the PV is a storage layer, right? So the PV,
it stores state, exactly.
Yes, but that's why we have the cache. The cache is not stateless. The cache was a stateful component. The data server was a stateless component. That's why we had schema server stateful, cache stateful, data server stateless. That was from the beginning, like how we set it up. And the reason was, so if you look to some of the pictures that I can dig them up somewhere, like we could run like multiple data servers with the same with a single cache where the state was retained, and then we were calculating it from there, right?
Yeah, I mean, running 2 data servers actually consumes twice as much memory, right?
If you put the memory there, Marcus, right? So that's why I go back to the same question always. The memory should be gone from the moment the calculation is done.
Yeah, but we also have the issue with the garbage collection, right? The garbage collection takes time, and it's not always instant to gather old memory. So we increase the computation pressure to continuously empty memory and
but you can also design your garbage. You can design your software to accommodate for the garbage collection, right?
I wonder if every 30 seconds is a bit too soon to be recreating. I mean, okay. Regardless of which method you use, you'll have to have some stuff in memory, because you'll have to perform computation, memory, and so on. Yes, you can either disregard that, or you can keep it locally cached, right? So this is like, let's take the example of your layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 cache in the CPU before going to memory, right? So theoretically, this cache layer, or sorry, this SDC cache, this stateful thing is effectively your memory component there. And then the memory within your process or the container is going to be your level 1, 2, 3 cache, because that's what you're doing current computations on. But the cache inside these lines are not evicted immediately. I mean, they're kept around until there's no space for anything else.
Yeah, there's a TTL expiry time to the cache, right? So then you.
Yeah, but I mean, if nothing is writing to that or reading from it, it will stay there for some time. I mean, that cache will be filled.
Till the TTL expires, so that's what the cache does, right?
Sure, but I mean, that's in that specific case. I don't think that translates so much to our case. The idea being you have some memory limit that you can maintain, and while you have that memory limit, why would you have to flush the cache out? or flush the memory. I mean, you can keep it in memory.
See, Alex, you have to look at it from designing a system with not with one system, but with 1,000 elements, right? And you have to optimize the memory utilization in that environment. That's where we came from the beginning, right?
But then we need to define what are the use cases, because for me, the use case.
That's why I'm saying I'm going back to where we started. If we start deviating from our goal from the beginning, we start to, let's say, change what we were trying to accomplish.
So then let's define it, right? Because for me, the use is less of this high availability, two data servers pointing to the same.
Yes, for you, yes, but there is multiple customers where that's not the case.
That's why I'm saying let's define it, because if we have a list of the entire use cases, then it's going to be a lot clearer to make decisions on.
Yeah, we can discuss the use case, but the goal was, if you look to all the even my slides from 2 years ago, data server has always been stateless.
I would still say that data server is stateless because it's not relying on reading and writing things to disk or memory to be able to maintain okay. Everything has some state, regardless of if it's stateless application or not.
That's why I'm not saying there is no state, but it's what for me is from the moment the computation is done, the memory should be void for you. And if for optimization, you could maybe optimize some of it, but your application should, I think it's gone.
But that's what happens, right? If you were to
no, that's not what I'm hearing. If you say I keep the tree, then your application relies on the fact it's there.
But the tree is not generated from some process where several things have happened to be able to get there. The tree is coming from the sync with the device as well as the intents. And this builds the tree. There's no state involved there. There's no requirement.
That state that you refer to in the original goal of the project was that state was in the cache.
But that's just the same as just basically it's an offloading some extra information, because everything that it's basically storing the computation that you've done somewhere to be able to quickly get it later, right? That's just all the cache is doing.
The cache is basically the persistent storage for such that multiple processes could basically consume that data in parallel as well, right?
Right, but it's
just, of course, not a good idea. But
yeah, why not? I mean, you could. Why not, Marcus? You could basically say one of the deviation calculation happens on processor 1 and the other one is on process 2. If you have availability of compute. Don't say it's a bad idea. I think that's what software architectures are about, right?
It's a bad idea because it's even more synchronization effort that needs to go in that case.
Not if you make it persistent, right?
But then persistent means we've got state, and then it's state.
No. Yeah, but that's why, Alexander, the cache is stateful, has always been.
Yeah, but it's the same as just having. I mean, cache is a cache. It's just storing some intermediate or reference information that can be consumed by something else. Data server is still going to be stateless, because even if it's got stuff in memory that it's done computations on and it keeps that computation, right? It can offload that to the cache. It doesn't mean that
it has
to keep that information.
Always do it.
It should, regardless. It's still going to be stateless because the information that it has can be regenerated by doing the same process of getting the information, getting the state, getting the configuration from the device, compiling it together with the intents. And each instance of data server, regardless of when it was created or not, will have this ability. So it doesn't rely on having some long-running multi-step process, right? So I mean, take your stateless HTTP sessions, right? You send a request here, you send a request here, you send a request here. Neither side knows about the internal state machine or internal information of either of either party, the server or the client. The client will send the request, the server will reply. This is what we're doing. Data server is exactly doing this, right? It's the client, it's sending the request.
Because if you look to the comparison of a HTTP server, right? The proxy, so the data server is your proxy at the end of the day. What it means is that you can have 10 instances of a proxy running in parallel, each get their own request, and they all serve the application. Whereas today there is a single data server that handles the target, and we cannot scale horizontally with the current philosophy.
If we're taking this cache to be the source of truth, then wouldn't it be that we should then split data server into worker and producer, where we have?
But that's how it should have been, Alexander, from the beginning, right? So that's how it was when we started. And now I understand that we are no longer like that, which is where I have the problem.
But then I mean, yeah, this is why I say we should then sit down with the architecture and the use cases.
Yeah, but maybe let's do that first, because I think it's really important.
Yeah, because clearly there's some different ideas about how things are structured and how they should be structured. So it would make sense to then design this, because yeah, moving the source of truth somewhere means that then there are a lot of follow-on.
Yeah, we have to basically optimize the interface to the cache, basically, but anyhow, let's discuss. But yeah, so next week, there's probably not going to be a meeting, because or you guys can have a meeting, but I'm not. I'm
going to be off for 2 weeks.
So, yeah, when are we back? Because calendar-wise.
Yeah. Okay. No, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'll be off. I won't be available for.
Wait a minute. So, should we meet the 5th?
I will not be back yet.
Oh,
but
wait.
that doesn't mean you can't.
Okay. So I'll try to reschedule the 5th. I'm in the 12th. I'm in the US. But we'll see.
It's hit or miss whether I'll be there or not. It depends a little bit. I might be around.
Okay, so so next week I will cancel it, and the 29th will also not be there, right? So we'll cancel the next 2 meetings, and then.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Okay, doc. All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Finn. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah. Bye.